Hello guys, good afternoon from the Philippines, and this is Roddy again, and today I'm going to be talking about my English, and at the same time I'm going to be practicing my English to talk about my English. Okay, so I have this tendency to think something like, is my English good enough? Or is my English perfect? Or is my English wrong? Or is my English, does my English make any sense, if you will? Now, perhaps you're thinking, well, like, you've been practicing English and we understand you, so what the hell are you talking about? Why are you asking these questions? And the reason for it is that, I'm not saying that my country is a country of bullies, nor am I saying that schools in this country are bad. Nor am I saying that we are a bunch of bullies. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But in my experience, there are, perhaps some people who demand perfection from others more than they should. That's to say, even if you are clearly understood, or perhaps you're a little bit wrong about, your grammar, but you're understood nevertheless, there is this toxic obsession over perfection all the time. And to me, it doesn't make any sense, because even native speakers make mistakes all the time. And native speakers of English don't even care about your grammar. If they understand you, then that's good enough. And I've never seen any native speaker who would, force others to speak English with perfect grammatical accuracy. I've never seen any. I've never met any. But then again, there are people in this country that are just obsessed over grammar, as if everyone were a major in English, which is weird for me. And what's even more problematic from my point of view is that, when we meet, foreigners who are not native speakers of English, let's say, for example, Thais or Vietnamese or Chinese or Vietnamese or Korean or whatever the case may be, when they speak English and let's say the grammar is far from being perfect, it doesn't matter to us so long as we understand them. That's what matters. That's what matters to us. But when a Filipino makes a mistake while trying his or her best to communicate in English, or just simply, sharing his ideas in English, well, it's, that's when something, that's when weird things happen. People, there are some people who laugh at the mistakes of others. There are those who even correct the grammatical errors of others. either for malicious reasons or what you might call sincere reasons. But then again, even non-native speakers don't care about grammatical accuracy most of the time. Perhaps they do in schools, but in daily conversations, they don't. They just don't care. And if native speakers don't care about, grammatical accuracy when they're just having fun or when they're just, sharing their ideas, then why should non-native speakers like the Filipinos care about or even obsess about grammatical accuracy? It's weird. It's just weird, really. You could say that it's like, it's some kind of a toxic thing about some Filipinos, okay? Just some, or maybe a few. Okay, but I can guarantee you that I'm not one of them. Because I have a lot of friends who are not native speakers. But when they speak English and I understand them, that's enough for me. And if I don't understand them, I just simply ask them, what do you mean by this? Do you mean this or that? It's that simple. Okay? And what's even more absurd for me, okay, as a non-native speaker of English, is that nobody seems to question the standard by which grammatical structures are, regarded or considered perfect or good enough or whatever. Nobody questions the standard, whatever the standard may be. Because as far as I know, there are what you might call two kinds of grammar. You have, of course, the descriptive grammar. It simply tells you how people actually use the language in daily conversations. Okay, when people don't care about grammatical accuracy. Okay, they use slangs and they use verbs as nouns and they use nouns as verbs. So for example, Google is a noun, but now people say, well, Google it. All right. So now Google is effectively functions as a word. I mean, as a verb, as an action word. All right. So this is descriptive grammar, and then you have the prescriptive grammar rule, or grammar, the prescriptive set of grammar rules because there are many of them. And as a set of rules, it's obviously arbitrary. It's arbitrary, and if it's arbitrary, then the question is, who decided it to be, the correct way? Who decided that? Like, who's to say that she don't is wrong and she doesn't is right? Who's to say that? Okay, I'm not saying that we shouldn't study grammar, nor am I saying that we should all be lazy and forget about, learning. But my point is, if language is arbitrary, if descriptive grammar, if prescriptive grammar is arbitrary, and the way that we are judged as correct or incorrect is just, based on prescriptive grammar, then obviously any judgment that they may say is just also arbitrary. So for example, if I say, she don't speak English, then obviously you would say, oh, that's just wrong. That's wrong. I would say, what makes it wrong? Then you would say, well, grammar. I would say, which one? Descriptive or prescriptive? Okay? And why is it so? Because we've decided it to be so? Then who's the we? Surely not me. Surely I'm not one of those we. No, are you included in those because you've only bought the narrative, right? She don't, she doesn't, he don't, he doesn't. To me, it's all completely fine, no problem at all. Okay, of course, in if we're talking about exams, things of that kind, but that's a totally different story. But if we're just talking about communication, having fun, just sharing our ideas and feelings, then who cares about prescriptive grammar? Who cares? The professors? Well, just because they care, just because professors care, doesn't mean that I don't. It doesn't mean that I should. Who? The teachers? Just because teachers care, doesn't mean that I should care, right? I've been rambling. Anyway, so that's it. Like, of course, if you like learning and practicing prescriptive grammar, like you really are into grammatical accuracy, grammatical perfection, and you think that it's your craft, it's your game, then go ahead, do it. I'm happy for you, all right? But please, don't use it as a way to judge others. Nor should you go around and, act as some sort of a grammar police. You don't have to, all right? Because for most of us, English is a tool for communication. That's it. We enjoy it. We enjoy communicating with other people, especially our friends. And we love having fun in English. That's all. We understand each other, and that's all that matters. Teachers could criticize us all day, but we wouldn't even care. Professors could criticize us all day, but we would also never care. But in all probability, teachers and professors don't even care at all, because why the hell would they, care about, how people actually speak the language, in terms of grammar, right? When they aren't even paid to do so. The only function as professionals in universities and schools, and maybe in their homes. But as far as communication is concerned, well, we only use English as a tool for communication, because it's now a global language. Right? This prescriptive grammar game is as arbitrary as, the standard accent. Because once you set the standard, for example, okay, it's either British or American. The next question is which one? Britain is a small country, but there are so many accents, in that country. All right, and especially in the United States, there are also so many accents. Okay, and each accent has its own nuances. And if you say that it's either British or American, then how about Irish English? How about Australian English? How about Canadian English? Right? And nowadays, as far as I know, a great majority of interactions and communications in English happens between non-native speakers of English, as far as I know. Okay. So again, while it's great to learn grammar, we must remember that English, just like any other language, is a tool for our communication. And as an Australian teacher says, I don't remember his name, he says, communication equals perfection. Let me say that again. Communication equals perfection. Thank you very much for listening.